Hey everyone, and welcome to another video about English and culture. If you're new to my channel, hey, it's great having you here. I'm Daniela, a non-native English teacher and a foreign language enthusiast, and today I'll tell you about some things in the US that I still can't get used to even after having lived here for more than 20 years. If you've watched my videos about what surprised me when I came to the US, you might remember that I was born and raised in Bulgaria and moved to the US as an adult. If you haven't watched these videos, do it after watching this one. Some things might surprise you. I'll put the links in the description box below. But today I decided to discuss some details about my life here that I still find hard to accept. Don't get me wrong, I love living in the US and I can't imagine living anywhere else. Although I enjoy traveling, I consider the US my home. Throughout the years, I've made many friends, went to college, worked and changed careers, so I can honestly say that I'm very well adjusted to this culture. I'm a firm believer that in order to feel happy in our host country, we need to somewhat adjust to its culture. Learning the language is great, but unless we accept the local norms and way of living, we won't feel truly at home. But although I've been quite open to different aspects of American culture, there are certain things that make me cringe. Okay, without further ado, let me start with thing number one. And this is that when you go to a coffee shop, the default is to give you the coffee in a paper cup, even if you sit in the actual coffee shop and don't take it to go. Now, I get the convenience of not having to actually sit at one place in order to have coffee, so I do appreciate the existence of paper cups. The thing though that I don't like is that they've become the default to the point that it makes me feel weird when I ask for a mug. For example, a few weeks ago, I went to Starbucks and actually decided to ask my coffee to be put in a mug. The young barista looked at me as if I was from a different planet. He was so confused that he asked me to repeat it a few times. Then he told me that the mugs there are just collecting dust, and yes, these are his words verbatim. Long story short, one of his coworkers washed the mug for me, but I definitely regretted my request. I felt so weird. I never thought asking for a mug in an actual coffee shop would be so strange. Okay, the next thing on my list is wearing pajama bottoms and slippers on the street. This is one thing that I will probably never get used to. I don't mind when I see other people wearing pajamas and slippers in public, but I just can't imagine myself walking outside dressed like that. Americans always say that they're all about comfort. However, there are other types of comfortable clothes out there, so you won't see me walking down the street in pajamas anytime soon. Moving on to the next thing, and this is American public bathrooms. Don't get me wrong. Most of them are actually quite clean, so no complaints in that department. But what I'm talking about is the large gaps between the doors. You can literally see the person inside. It's so awkward. The doors are also so short that you can often see the feet of the person inside and even sometimes their head when they stand up. I just don't understand why Americans always talk about how important privacy is to them, and yet this doesn't seem to bother them. Okay, the next one is the units of measurements. I gotta be honest, even after 20 years in the US, I still prefer the metric system. I grew up using meters, liters, and kilograms, so inches, gallons, and pounds still give me a headache. Also, when it comes to temperature, I still prefer Celsius over Fahrenheit. Of course, I know what 77 Fahrenheit is, but to me, it still feels more authentic when I say that it's 25 Celsius. Let me know in the comments what units of measurement you use. Let's move on to the next point. The US is considered one of the richest countries in the world. That's why I can't wrap my head around the fact that you see many homeless people sleeping on the street in most major cities. This is especially noticeable in California, where the weather is relatively warm throughout the whole year. There are entire camps full of tents where you can see communities of homeless people. For years, local governments and political candidates have been talking about how to deal with the issue, but not only do we not see any improvement, the things are actually getting even worse. I know that other countries also deal with poverty and homelessness, but considering that the US claims to be one of the most developed countries in the world, this is definitely mind-blowing. Okay, so this next one is driving me crazy anytime I'm on the road. And this is driving slow on the lane. In Europe, if you drive slowly, you drive on the right lane, but here in the US, no one cares. You might have 5 lanes with 5 cars ahead of you, each one on a separate lane and all driving with the same speed. So they block you and you can't even pass them. Seriously, this drives me nuts. Okay, let me stop here because my blood starts boiling just thinking about it. If you live in or have ever visited Europe, you must know that no matter how large a European city is, it always has an area in downtown that is solely for pedestrians where no cars are allowed. These places are constantly full of city life and have plenty of restaurants, bars, nightclubs, theaters, etc. There are also plenty of outside sitting areas full of people. In the US, with some exceptions, this is not the case. Every place has to be vehicle accessible, which means that all streets are full of cars. You can find some alleys, but these are typically in parks where there are no restaurants or bars. If you happen to find food in such areas, it's always fast food. There are little downtown areas here with some bars and restaurants, but as I mentioned, there are cars everywhere and you can't really enjoy sitting outside so much because of the noise. And the last one on my list for today is tipping. Guys, the amount of money you have to tip in the US is literally ridiculous. If you go to a bar, restaurant, hair salon, nail salon, or anything else that involves some kind of service, you're expected to leave at least 18% of the amount of your check. And when I say 18, this is actually the minimum. A more acceptable tip would be 20 and even 25%. I mean, are you kidding me? Why is it my fault that servers are not on a salary? Eating out is getting more and more expensive anyway. Why do I have to pay so much extra? And now, mind you, even coffee shops have added a tip option when you pay, even though they don't have servers. I mean, yes, I get it. They brew the coffee and pour it into the cup for you, but aren't they getting paid for that? Don't get me wrong, I always leave a good tip because I live in the US and I feel that I have to comply with the culture, but the original reason for leaving a tip was to show satisfaction with a great service and not because there was no other option. Guys, I made this video not to complain. I live in the US by choice and I like most aspects of my life here. No one forces me to stay here if I don't like it. But I just wanted you to know about all these things so that you're not surprised if you haven't been in the US but plan to visit. Let me know in the comments which things surprised you the most. If you live in the US, let me know if you also have things that you can get used to. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to my channel. It'll help me grow and I'll appreciate it a lot. Thank you and I'll see you in the next video.